Look at the cyber attacks in Australia, Europe. There have been cyber attacks happening everywhere in the world. In fact, in one of our leading banks in India, a cyber attack had taken place, and for 5 or 6 hours, the banking operations of that bank shut down. You will be surprised to know that there are hundreds of attempts on cyber attacks on the National Stock Exchange in India every day. But obviously, they've created fantastic firewalls and security, so it doesn't impact. But cyber attacks are happening virtually every day. ऊपर से trade war भी हो गया between China and Australia. And the last two things is that there is now talk about China probably invading Taiwan at some point in time. And जो आज तक नहीं हुआ, in such a long time after World War II, एक war भी हो गई है, which is the Russia-Ukraine crisis. So I'm not trying to list everything down. I'm just trying to share that to believe that we are not part of this is not correct. And it's also unfair on our part to expect fund managers to constantly adjust their styles to this. But what is correct is to understand broadly what is happening and try and attempt to create portfolios accordingly. That is very important. And so today I'm going to spend a little more time on the Russia-Ukraine crisis. It's because it's very important to understand a little bit of it, and then, like I said, we'll go into the economics of it. Because in every crisis, there can be huge opportunity, and perhaps India is sitting on one such opportunity. So let me just dive right into one next slide, which is quite interesting actually. I put this slide together a few months ago, and I call it the new formats of war. And when I tell people that we are in the middle of war, everyone feels that war is about bullets and missiles and kinetic and tanks and all of that. That's not true. We're actually in the middle of 9 different formats of war, and in none of them there is a single bullet that has been fired. We're in the middle of cyber wars, we are in the middle of water wars, economic wars, trade wars, biological wars, media war. कि कैसे हमको control किया जाता है? What are we thinking? What is the process of thinking? How much money is spent in creating a narrative that we believe? Then there are psychological operations war. And finally, there is a semiconductor war. So the world is in the middle of 8 or 9 such different formats. And also please remember that in the middle of all of this, ऐसा नहीं है कि ये अभी start होगा. We are in the middle of it. What matters is how does your country respond to it? How do we as citizens respond to it? Are we creating a secure nation or not? Because if the nation is not secure, फिर अपने capital market का क्या फायदा? फिर finally everything kind of stems from security of the nation. And I think and we'll probably speak about it a bit later also, I think if you look at the entire list, it's not a small list, it is a very daunting list. But I think we are making progress in dealing with each one of them. In this new formats of war, there is also something that has happened for the first time after decades, which is a kinetic war, a war involving bullets, loss of lives, and an actual war between two nations. And that is the Russia-Ukraine crisis. So I'm going to spend, like I said, a little bit more time in decoding that and spending more time on it and kind of explaining what is perhaps the reason behind it. And then we'll come on to the impact.